When we talk about trolls, we oftentimes think of people that say things without a face. We think of when people leave a comment and they're like, oh, I would never say that in person, right? And even with the alarming amount of people that are really good at the internet that can literally find out anything about anybody from any comment left anywhere, you'd think that trolls would chill, but they don't. And they continue to leave these anonymous, hateful comments that can just be incredibly damaging. Ironically, that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the not so faceless and the not so anonymous way that words and opinions and negativity can genuinely affect someone. If you'll see by the title of this video, you might be thinking, oh, I wonder what she's going to talk about today. I wonder if this is something that is relevant to her real life. And yeah, it definitely is. Hi, by the way, I'm Jamie Grace, and my song Nothin comes out this week. I'm really excited about it. It's off of my new record Dreamers that is available to stream next month at the end of September. And Nothin is a song that I wrote about comments that I was receiving online and comments that I was hearing in real life and how they affected me and how I am choosing life. I choose my own life. I want to keep it. And how I've chosen to just continue to fight every day, even in the midst of certain opinions and things like that. Now, I will say, because I just almost fell over, but most of you guys know me as like a pretty positive person. I try to, put like a pretty optimistic spin on most things, right? So I will say, like, just so we can get the record clear, the amount of love and support and just genuine like caring words or emojis, like genuinely whatever it is that you're commenting or messaging me or whatever, that stuff outweighs the hate, right? So let me just put that out there because I love to share the genuine and like positive spin on things. Like there are so many beautiful things that have happened in my life, but more specifically like in my public life and what I share on social media, and the reaction and response from you guys has been beautiful. With that being said, just like anyone else, I've gotten negative comments too. But I'm not talking about trolls, and I'm not talking about anonymous people. I'm talking about the for real things that I have heard over the last few years that a lot of us have heard, if we're being completely honest. My body has changed. I think that is just, statistically, I'm the first woman in the world whose whose body has changed. You know what I mean? I got famous. Like I got famous at 17, and I'm now 31, and I don't look like a 17-year-old. I'm so grateful for that. I've also had a child, which is incredible, that I was able to carry a person and then like push it out. Like I was trying to think of a more like discreet way to say that, but no, that's a big deal. That's a real. That is a wild. It was wild, and it took a little bit of time for me to, on a personal internal level, for me to really be able to like grow and learn to love my body through the changes. To love my body through the changes of being 17 to early 20s, and then mid 20s to late 20s. Right, like our bodies change so much, our minds change, our thoughts and opinions about things, our views and perspectives change, our jobs change, our friend groups change. All these things change over the years. Some things never change because that's from Frozen, but it can be hard to accept those things, and it can be difficult to embrace that change. And I think sometimes when we have a hard time connecting with that change internally, we begin to project those feelings and those thoughts that we might have about our own selves or our own lives or our obsession with how we have done things, right? Like, oh, I'm so proud of how I did X, Y, Z, and so I better make sure that everybody else does the exact same thing and make sure they go down the exact same path, right? And if we're not careful, we do not become internet trolls. And we are not sharing things as brothers and sisters in Christ in love, but we are sharing hate. And it can be incredibly harmful to the people that we are trying to communicate with. Try to dust off dusty opinions. I have another video on here where I talk more about just like the conversation of body, and it's from a few years back, and it talks about years back. But I talked a little bit about like when I was a teenager as a pastor's kid in a church, and hearing some of the women at the church, like when my body changed from being a preteen to a teenager and hearing commentary and things like that. I've also talked about some of the men in the music industry that have been inappropriate with both words and touch when it comes to my body and things like that. When I was like in my late teens and early 20s, and then I've also shared I actually can't remember how much I've shared about this, but just even hearing commentary and conversation about other women and other women's bodies, right? Like women in the industry that I might be being compared to. Well, at least you're not this. Well, if she didn't do that, then she wouldn't be here. And so this concept of the gossip and hatred, unfortunately, it's not new to me, and I don't think it's new to anyone that's watching this. Likely, at least, because a lot of us have been in the room. A lot of us have heard these things, and it's hurtful when people have thoughts and opinions about your body that are really just not their place, right? I just want to give a quick little, even commercial in here. This video is not about like dating and relationships at all, but I do know that a lot of my platform, especially when I was super single, was about that. And I just want to even just make sure that I acknowledge that even in dating and singlehood, and becoming attracted to someone and them being attracted to you, our bodies are not the general just property of whoever is interested in obtaining it or attaining it. That's not how it works. Yeah. And I didn't realize how intense that would get until I got pregnant. Like there's people in Target that are like, oh, can I touch the belly? My belly? This is mine. Like, what do you want? You want to touch my elbow too? Like, what is happening? It was just so wild. Aaron and I did a whole nother video about why I never showed my belly bump, my bump belly, whatever I don't even know what you call it. I've just never, ugh. And so then, we're talking weeks after I've announced I'm pregnant, I've got DMs like, oh, well, if you do this for your body, if you do that, what? Why are strangers DMing me about exercise during pregnancy? Girl, I don't even know what day of the week it is. I don't know you. So many people had so many opinions. And then after I had the baby, even more opinions. And these are not faceless people. These are people leaving comments on my Instagram, people saying things in DMs and messages. And it got so intense. I remember there was a pastor's wife that reached out to me about my husband and what he was going to do and all these things if I didn't change my body and if I didn't lose weight. Look, I'm not trying to be messy on the internet, but don't y'all request for me to come sing at your church. You don't want to see me. You don't want to see me. Look, if anybody's gonna be like, Jamie, but grace, forgiveness, listen. I can forgive you from my house. I'm not going to that lady's church. I actually think I did end up responding to her, but I couldn't respond to all the people. I don't choose to respond to a lot of people because I just don't want to respond to stuff. But that actually really broke my heart because it made me think it's very likely that she's not sending me this because she genuinely believes this about me. But it made me worry that she might be sending it because it could have happened to her, or she could suspect that it's happening to her. I was devastated, but I was also like so grieved because how hurt do you have to be to boldly hurt someone else? When you leave like a comment on the internet and you don't think people can find you, whatever, like, well, not whatever, you shouldn't be a butthead regardless, but when you are publicly saying like, I'm a child of God and I'm reaching out to this person because they are also a child of God, so I see that we are sisters in Christ and I want to say this thing about your body and your marriage, and I want to say what I think you need to change. How hurt must you be? That's just one example of a lot of examples that I dealt with, and some in-person stuff too. And I just, yeah. I got in a really, really dark place. And it was during all the, like, we're dealing with a pandemic, we're dealing with, isolation. We lost family members to COVID. We couldn't go to funerals because we were living across the country. I, I was I was trying to figure out who I was as a first time mom. I dealt with postpartum depression very heavily. I was already in such a dark place. I I started to like actively like feel myself like start to like slip away from myself. And being met with almost daily, I don't like your hair. What are you doing with your hair? What's up with your body? Why do you look like that? Like I I would wake up. I'd be like, I chose to live today. Why are you? I I I I chose not to harm today. Why do, why are you asking me about how I look? I, when I sat down and wrote my song Nothin, it was about a year ago, and it was when I really started to feel free. It was right when I decided to lock my hair, which is something I wanted to do my whole life. And it was this season of life where I was no longer mentally drained by hateful comments. Um, I don't think that you are any less of a person if you are mentally drained by hateful comments. I don't, because hate is painful. Hate is it sucks the life away. It's hurtful, and it is traumatic, and dealing with all of this hate is just, yeah. This was also, during a time of civil unrest, is what I believe it to be called. And, you know, having friends not fully understand some of the fear that I deal with as a Black woman and that my husband deals with as a Black man, and trying to learn to love well and trying to learn how to extend grace, but also trying to learn how to recognize and to accept like certain things about people and the world. And when I released my song Live About It in 2020, and I was, singing about Jesus, and I the comments from people on Facebook and other places were just so harsh and disgusting about me and about my belief about Jesus. And I was, just there were so many pastors and so many people that worked at respectable institutions or churches where I have served, where I have loved serving. We're just in a time where a lot of people who look like me were sharing stories about racism and challenging things you go through, and randomly saying like, oh yeah, with Jesus being brown and everything, and then people being like da 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 da, you'll never, like, my daughter will never listen to you again, you disgusting Christian, like whatever. Like, it, it's just everywhere I turn, I just like and I understand so many people will be like, Jamie, then get off the internet, take a social media break. I do those. I don't announce them usually, but I do take them, of course. I mean, if you subscribe to me on YouTube, you know. Um, so I respectfully am really good at taking care of myself, and am very privileged to have phenomenal people in my day-to-day life who are just so gracious and love on me well. So I'm very blessed in that way. Um, But with that being said, a part of my job is social media, right? And so um, I say this because you can't necessarily just say, well, don't go on social media. It's very similar to telling someone, well, don't go into the office. Well, don't be a part of the workforce. Well, don't have a job, you know? And that's something I've considered. We'll talk about another song on the record too about how I had tried to retire like 5 times in the last 5 years. Like actually retire. Like sent in my resume to multiple places. It's not funny. It's just I have tried. God was like, "Get your behind back over there." God doesn't talk like that. Well, you know what? Let me not speak for you. I started to feel a freedom in who God made me to be. I started to feel a freedom in every season. I started to feel a freedom in the present season. And it's not that I stopped thinking about what other people say or think or comment or email. It's not that I stopped thinking about or worrying about what people say. It's just that I realized that as much as they hurt me, it was no comparison to the value of who I truly am. And when I could accept that this hateful comment about my body from someone who says they have admired me for 15 years and from someone who says that their daughters' lives were changed because of my story, and now they're doubting everything about me because I announced that I'm black. For those things to be so hurtful, it does not compare to the peace that I have in knowing that my life is worth living and my skin is worth not breaking anymore. I wrote a song years ago for someone who's really special in my life, and the line of the song says, "You may feel pain, but it's not as great as his name." And I think acknowledging the pain and recognizing that it's no match to who God is, instead of saying, "Oh, this is pain," I'm not, it's not real. Yeah, it is. That's why in the song I say, if you're not my doctor or my mama or my maker or my therapist, man or friend, you ain't got to tell me nothing. Because life goes on. We change. Our bodies change, our minds change, our jobs change, our dreams change. All these things change. We make mistakes, we make corrections, life goes on. So we don't shut down the world around us. We instead realize where the value actually lies, and we invest our time there. So I've shared this here and there, but I've been producing my own stuff for a long time, but this is my very first album that I produced like completely by myself, which is super cool. And there was just a sound that I couldn't figure out that that this song like helped me get to. And I think the newness that I felt in the freedom that I felt was a part of the newness that I felt in the production of this song, if that makes sense. I love horns, I love brass, and someday, y'all, we gonna have the budget to have like live trumpet players on a Jamie Grace album. We're gonna get there, but for now, it's me, playing a MIDI keyboard. Anyways, and I was so proud of it. I remember feeling just so insecure to talk about producing my own album, because I was like, what if people don't like it? Then they'll know that it was all me, It's like if I pretend like some guy named Bob did it, and they're like, oh yeah, Bob is the worst. But this song really gave me the confidence to be like, hey guys, guess what? So that was me going, it's just, There's such a joy and a freedom of the production of this song, of everything about it. And I've wanted to have a song that said nah, nah, not for a long time. Any variation of non, like nah, 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 any variation of that. I've wanted to have a song that said that for the longest time. I wanted to have a song that talked about therapy. I really wanted to have a song that said my man. I did a lot of songs about being single, about dating and waiting, you know. And I have not, the comparison of like the amount of songs written about like being married and stuff like that. Like I haven't really done that. And I probably will, you know, I'll do a grown folks album at some point. But but I just like there's something grown about being like, my man, like there's something super, there's, you feel grown. And I was really proud of that. Now I'm sure that there's people that write different kind of music that might be like, girl, that's your grown people moment. Those two words. And the bridge. I didn't even mention the bridge. The bridge is my favorite. My favorite part of the song. There's an Abbott Elementary reference. There is a reference to when the Hunger Games came out, and a lot of people said that Rue was too dark. So there's a reference to that. But basically, you know, from like a theological perspective, because I'm sure everybody's just itching to know what I think about theology. You know, it's just like don't be a butthead. I know that's not a scripture, but like truly, at the end of the day, that's what the song is about. Like the song "Daughter of the King," you know, it says the word "maker" a lot, and I reference God as the maker in this song as well. And I really love that word. I think it's really a really gorgeous word. A lot of times in trying to find our own voice and trying to hold others accountable and be a good friend and be a good peer, all these things, you know, we can unfortunately allow our opinions and our thoughts and our perspective to overpower grace and wisdom and kindness. We can be so pressed and anxious to do things out of love. We don't realize what we're really doing is spewing hate. I hope that this song is just a reminder of just where we place our value and where we place our hope. I don't know, man. I hope that this song connects with the people that need to connect with it. And yeah. Thank you guys for listening to my music. Thank you for supporting me here on YouTube. And thank you so much to everybody on Patreon that helps fund my music so that I can be able to make songs like this, videos like this in a really cool studio like this. So thank you guys so much. That was like off the cuff. Is that a new sign out? Oh, thank you, Ava, for joining me for this video. It's been a delight. And yeah, guys, stream Nothin, pre-save Dreamers. I had to think about it. What's it called? Pre-save Dreamers. And I will talk to you guys later. Later. Why did I try to get? Okay, bye. That I'm going